Welcome to the very first episode of LMC's Voices of Impact. My name is Jennifer Billick, and I'm the Executive Director of Leadership Medina County and alum of the signature class of 2020. This year marks a very special year for leadership. We will be celebrating our 35th year, and what better way to highlight the great leaders in our community that have gone through Leadership Medina County. In this first episode, I've brought along my friend and colleague, Terri Greene, because this is going to be a whirlwind ride for me doing our very first podcast. So who better yet to have on this journey with me than Terri Greene. So welcome, Terri.
Thank you. I'm glad I get to be your guinea pig.
Yes. Get to jump off this nervous cliff with me.
Won't be the first.
So Terri, let's start first by you sharing what class you were alumni of, what year, maybe tell us the class name if you remember.
I do.
And maybe a special story from the year.
Okay, so let me just preface this. I was not the very first class, so I'm not the oldest alumni, but it does seem like a long time ago. So I was the class of 2012, and I do remember the name of our class, and it was kind of funny. So the name of our class was it was called the Rain or Shine class, which is, we couldn't get very creative. It wasn't a very creative name. It was just funny because it rained a lot during our class year, and then they threw the shine in there. So it wasn't a very creative name. So you very rarely, when you're talking to alumni, even get people to remember that from our class. So, yeah.
What's a special memory that you have of your year with leadership?
Well, it is funny because I remember being told, I was in higher ed at the time, and I was the director for Tri-C, the Brunswick University Center, and opened up that campus in 2012. I'm sorry, it was 2011, January of 2011 that we started with classes. And I remember my boss, who was the president of the Western campus, said to me, "You will do Leadership Medina County because we're building a campus in Medina County." And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, what is it?" And she goes, "Just go figure it out." And I thought, okay, she's challenging me. So I got together with a few people that I knew from Tri-C who had gone through to try to find out a little bit more about the program and what it was. And it's the funniest thing because our signature program has always been one of those things that you can't really explain it until you've done it, right? Mm-hmm. So after I had completed it and graduated, I had a better understanding, but it was very difficult to understand what you were getting into because it's a very unique leadership program, right? It's about getting ingrained in your community, which, halfway through I realized, okay, well, we're a community college in Medina County, so it made sense that, she wanted me ingrained in the community to learn about Medina County and network with other leaders in the community because that's what we were here for. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but so I remember looking at the class schedule. So you would ask the question about my favorite memory, and I remember looking at the schedule, and the attendance was very strict, and I remember them saying that you could only miss one class day, and so I remember looking at the schedule, going, I don't want to do agriculture day, and I thought that's the day I'm going to miss. Well, then I ended up having to miss business and industry day, and ended up having to go in March in my rain boots to the agriculture day, and it ended up being my most favorite day ever. I'm so glad it was somebody from above telling me that I needed to be there that day because it was just such a wonderful experience, like touring the farms, because agriculture is so big in Medina County.
Absolutely.
Touring the farms, getting spit at by the alpacas, milking the cows. I mean, it was a great day.
Yeah, yeah, it is a great day. So let's talk a little bit about your journey because, as I mentioned, you are my colleague. You are the Director of Leadership Development for Leadership Medina County. Yeah. Talk a little bit about your journey from Tri-C to LMC and how your creative genius created the Lead Institute.
That's a stretch, creative genius. Well, it's interesting because I was in higher ed for over 20 years. And that's what my degree is in, my master's degree. And I actually started a PhD, doctorate in higher education. And it was just, I don't know what it was. It was just, my heart is in education. I mean, that's where my values stand, and I'm an education person. And I was always, once I had gone through the program, the signature program at Leadership Medina County, I just remained tied to the mission because my entire career I've just been very community minded. I got early in my career, I remember I've said on every every employer that I've worked for, I've sat on a chamber, on a chamber board and gotten involved with the chamber. And so it's been who I am. And the mission of Leadership Medina County, speaks to leadership, the education piece, educating people to be stronger, more effective leaders, but then also the community-minded, giving back to your communities and being a part of your community. So I was always tied to the mission even after I graduated. So I stayed involved as an alumni on their selection committee for choosing the upcoming classes for the signature program. I was a speaker on Education Day. I just stayed involved and went to all the networking events. And so when it came time for me to reconsider like a career transition, I had been following the executive director at the time. She was new to the organization, and just was watching her leadership style. And I thought, this is somebody that I'd like to partner with on making a stronger impact in Medina County. So she brought me on board, and it was in 2018, I think it was. So I did some marketing at the time. She made me the director of community impact. So I was doing all of the recruiting and networking and all of that kind of stuff. And then we also had, at the time, we had an emerging leaders program. So about a year into my tenure with Leadership Medina County, when I transitioned over, we took a look at our emerging leaders program, which hadn't been looked at. And from a programming standpoint, you want to make sure that you're staying current and on trend and relevant with your programming, at least every 5 to 7 years. So it had been 7 years that we had the emerging leaders program, and she had asked me to take a look at it from a programming standpoint. And so I ended up running our emerging leaders program for the last year, and during that year, evaluating what we could be doing differently. And my experience in higher ed, I had gone through a number of different leadership programs, leadership development, and kind of stole some ideas from one of the ones that I did within Tri-C. And some of the, just witnessing some of the leadership that I've encountered throughout my career, realizing what were some of the important skills that may have been missing in certain areas that we need to make sure that our younger leaders and also, current leaders we need to get them up to speed, right? We need to get them ramped up on today's types of challenges. So everything I've learned over my career and in higher ed and everything else, I've kind of built into this our emerging leaders program was a 6-month program, and this is now a 9-month program. So we've really beefed it up quite a bit to really make a program that isn't just for emerging leaders, but for leaders at any point in their career.
Yeah. So. Talk a little bit about what that looks like. You mentioned the skills that our leaders need today. What are you seeing out there that you feel is great tools that we can use to build these leaders up?
Yeah. So actually, it's funny. One of the books I have here is our Leading Your Parents. So that's kind of was like a motivator for me, because when I was in my doctorate program and I was taking classes towards my doctorate, the reason that Tri-C had brought that doctorate program to Cuyahoga Community College was because they were starting to see they had a bunch of presidents of community colleges nationwide that were retiring, and they didn't have leaders at middle level and lower level ramped up to take positions, because a lot of those presidents were retiring.
Yeah.
And then you had a gap with the millennials, because it's a smaller generation. Then you have your Gen Xers, and there weren't enough of us to fill those positions. So they were trying to get people ramped up pretty quickly to take on those community college president positions.
Yeah.
And so I guess it would go back to generations, and realizing that was a nationwide challenge, not even just in community colleges, but everywhere, because that baby boomer generation was so large. So we needed to, at a whole, we needed to start getting leaders ramped up quickly and at younger ages. So that's kind of where the Lead Institute was kind of birthed from, is we've got some great leaders here in Medina County.
Absolutely.
At every level. But the skills that they need today are different than they needed, back in, I would say like maybe the 80s and 90s, because these leaders are actually, leadership isn't management anymore. There's a big difference, right? So you're not managing the technical challenges like people who were promoted back in the day were, but now it's more about, these long-term projects, what we're calling adaptive challenges. So we went to one of our conferences for the Association of Leadership Programs, which is a global program. It's an association of community leadership programs. And I was introduced to this, the Your Leadership Edge through the Kansas Leadership Center. And it just really resonated with me in terms of, the type of leaders we need today and what we need to do to get them ramped up to lead through the challenges of today. you know, because the generations are all different. We have to lead our millennials and our Gen Zs much differently than we have led our Gen Xers, right? So that's kind of like, you know, where the Lead Institute that's kind of a foundation for us.
Yeah, that's such a great impact that you've had, and why I'm so glad that you're our first inaugural guest, to really talk about the impact that you've been able to make on the county. So I know you've mentored a lot of people. What would be advice or a lesson that you would share with a mentee that's struggling in their leadership journey?
So, you know, we teach a lot of great things in the Lead Institute, but I think the one that really resonates a lot with the leaders that are, you know, out there today is be prepared to take risks. Understand that leadership isn't a title. Just because you're a director or you're a vice president doesn't mean, you know, that you've reached the epitome of the perfect leader. It's an activity, right? So in the Lead Institute, we've had everybody from your administrative assistants in departments to solo entrepreneurs to vice presidents and presidents of companies. And it's really it's a neat collaboration that happens in the class, right? So there's a cohort-based program, and you know, they're mentoring each other, right? But the one thing that I think that, you know, getting that concept about understanding that leadership is an activity and not a position.
Yeah.
But then also when you are a leader and you're taking on leadership activities, be prepared to take risks and stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone, because that's truly where you grow as a leader and as a human being, when you can stretch yourself to try something different.
Well, I definitely feel like I'm stretching myself today. But I do, like, having been able to participate in the last couple of years of the Lead Institute classes, I do agree with you that mentorship that happens organically in the class, that mentoring up and mentoring down is critically important for leaders to be involved with today.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're turning 35 this year. What, from your perspective, both as a participant and a staff member, what have you seen as the impact of leadership Medina County in our community?
Oh my gosh, it's like endless. I mean, the things that I've seen just in my tenure here since 2018, right? But the leaders that have come through our program are true passionate leaders that really want to make a difference. You know, they're doing it for their career, but when they realize the impact that they can have outside of those walls where they're working is just, when that light bulb goes off, it's amazing to see it happen. I mean, we've seen things happen like the director of the Parks and Recreation System here in Medina County, because of the connections he's made with the alumni and with people in his class, he's been able to build that beautiful concept next to the hospital there. I think it's the Brownstone farm, which is now, you know, a collaboration between the executive director for the Hope Recovery Community, Feeding Medina County, the Park District. There's more. I mean, the collaboration of, like, you know, being able to help people like that have, you know, that are overcoming addiction and trying to right-size their life. Giving, you know, they're growing, you know, fresh produce on that farm that'll go back to Feeding Medina County, that are, you know, helping feed people that are in need. I mean, just to see, like, the number of our alumni that are sitting on nonprofit boards here in Medina County. You know, and it's just endless. I could go on and on and on, but it's just, and how they're growing together still, not only in their classes after they graduate, but as alumni, and just expanding that network of people continuing to give back. Yeah. I was really excited because during COVID, which is when we started the Lead Institute, there was, we decided to do, we dabbled with an alumni project for alumni to come together and work on a project to move the dial forward on an issue in Medina County. And we had you know, people submit challenges that they'd like to have our alumni work on. And ultimately, what ended up being the choice was to work on the foster care. There was a need for foster care families in Medina County. And we put a call out to our alumni to say who would like to work on helping Job and Family Services, you know, create it like an outreach campaign and create an awareness about the need and what it takes to become a foster family. I got to tell you, we had, right out of the gate, we had 14 alumni that reached out to me and said, I want to work on this project. I want to work on this project. And then as the project was going on, we had additional people that jumped on. But and that project went on for like 2 years after COVID.
Yeah.
And they were still working on, they had created a video. We had one of our alumni who reached out to me and said, I want to lead this challenge. And he had gone through our Emerging Leaders program. And he and his wife, you talk about alumni walking the walk and talking the talk. He and his wife actually went through the process of becoming a foster family, and created a video. And we walked them through we videoed them through the process. And then we took that out on the road and shared it with churches and libraries and community centers all over Medina County to help create that awareness and build, a stronger pool of, a larger pool, I should say, of foster care families.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is such an amazing program, and I feel so blessed to be a part of it, and it's why I've continued and stepped up to this role. So tell me what your hopes and visions for Leadership Medina County are for the future.
My hopes are, it's such an important piece of Medina County, right? It's a unique piece. It's an important piece. You want to, the network of leaders that can come together on a regular basis and move the dial forward on making Medina County a more prosperous, stronger, more engaged community. And so I think over the next 35 years, God, I won't be here thinking about that, geez. But I would love to see that, these connections remain in place, and that the opportunities remain out there for people of, the nonprofits, for the small business owners. Everybody has something to gain from this, and Medina County has everything to gain from it.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's awesome. All right. So let's do a little bit of fun, fast, lightning, quick round questions. So you already told me that Ag Day was your favorite LMC Class Day topic. So since you lead the LEAD Institute, what's your favorite class day in the LEAD Institute?
So my favorite class day is probably when we do our DISC assessments. It's probably 2 years into the LEAD Institute when we brought that in. And the facilitator we have, her name is Judy Bodenhammer. She does a great job of, we do the assessments ahead of class, and then we get a team grid. But just, the impact that has had on the classes throughout the years, not only throughout the class year, but when they get back into the workplace and then we're in the community. It's a whole different perspective of how you work with people that are different from you, and understanding where they're coming from so you can meet them where they are. So it becomes a language. So much like our signature class at the opening retreat, we have a thing where, you find out if you're a dolphin, or if you're a beaver, or if you're a fox. So that's kind of like the signature language, but the lead language becomes the DISC assessments, which is, are you dominant? Are you an influencer? Are you steady? Or are you, conscientious? And all those different styles in the workplace. So
which one are you?
So I'm an ID, and I'm high on both ends, which is unique. I'm a people pleaser, so that's the dolphin in me from the signature class. But I'm the keeper of the people, but I'm also got to get things done, and either I'm going to do it or I'm going to get somebody to do it.
So you were a dolphin in the class.
I was a dolphin.
Yeah, I was too.
So it makes sense because you're an I too. Yeah.
Absolutely. What is your favorite networking spot in Medina County?
That's funny that you should say that, because, I've been a part of Medina County since 2010, so was that 15 years? And I would say my favorite spot is probably Cool Beans. No big secret there. However, one of the things that, once you become so ingrained in the community, if I've got to meet somebody somewhere for coffee, I will actually find a secret little coffee shop. Just because when you go to Cool Beans, and this isn't just me, this is everybody, right? Anybody who's from Medina, if you walk into Cool Beans, it's like walking into Cheers. I know I'm dating myself. Like, everybody knows your name, right? So it's very difficult to have meetings there. So I'll find a cute little place. There's a place in Brunswick called the Grounded Bean, or even in Valley City. There's the Valley City Coffee Shop, which is really nice too.
Yeah. One of the things I always try to remember, we are Leadership Medina County and not just Medina centric. So I love that you gave some shout outs to some other locations outside of Medina. Not that Cool Beans is definitely
Cool Beans is in Brunswick now too. So.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. They have their drive-through option. So that's been a great enhancement for them, I'm sure. What's the most surprising thing about you that our listeners, or maybe even I, don't know?
You know, it's funny, and I never thought that this was like unique about me, but whenever I tell people this, they're like, really? And I talked about it in the interview when I interviewed for Leadership Medina County, is I actually owned 2 Dairy Queens.
Oh, yes.
So I grew up in the Dairy Queen business. I was 15 years old, and grew up around ice cream and, you know, burgers and fries and chicken strip baskets. And so I did that for a good portion of while I was going to college, high school and college, and then for a little while after I graduated college, and then my husband got involved in the business, and it just, I couldn't shake it.
Yeah.
So I'm a Dairy Queen girl. I'm a Dairy Queen.
I'm a big believer that everybody should have experience in the serving industry at some point in their life, whether it's retail or restaurant. What would be a lesson that you took away from working in dairy and owning a Dairy Queen?
Work ethic, right? So my dad, you know, I worked for my dad, and that was his second career, and he was a manager of a grocery store. So, and we used to always, it's funny because we used to always call my dad a workaholic. And back in the day, a workaholic still got days off, and they had the weekends off because the grocery stores weren't open. But that work ethic that's instilled in you, and service, customer service, taking care of the customers.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. So fill in this blank. Leadership is
mobilizing people to take on daunting challenges, you know, to work on some of these things in our world today that don't, you know, you can't fix them overnight. They're going to take time, and they're going to take people. So leadership is mobilizing people and gathering people around a challenge, and giving them purpose to make a difference.
It's a great answer. I thought for sure you were going to say leadership is an activity.
No, I believe like this Kansas Leadership Center curriculum, the Your Leadership Edge, I mean, this stuff is gold. It really is, because it really speaks to how we need to work together to make a difference.
Yeah, the thing I love about it is there's actual tools that you can use day one out of the gate once you've learned it that can make an impact. So it's not something where it's a 9-month program and then you get to apply it. You can apply it from that very first class that you have. So.
Yeah. I mean, these are real life tools that can be used, and that's the beauty of what we're going to do this year.
Yeah.
So we're actually combining. Do you mind if I share this?
Oh yeah, go for it.
So our signature class and our lead institute are actually combining on a class project this year that's going to make. We're not going to share what the project is. However, the goal is that the 2 classes can come together to work on this project, and the folks from the lead institute can actually bring those tools to the project to move the dial on something pretty important to Medina County.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see that what comes from that. We are kind of giving things over to the class, and
it's a big project that can have a really big impact on our community.
Absolutely. And just like the leaders that have come through before, the impact that their class projects have had. So it's going to be an exciting year bringing the 62 or 63 people together working towards one common goal. Well, thank you so much for joining me on my first podcast.
You did great. I mean, this is fun.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm very proud of what we've done.
Absolutely. Me too.
We've come a long way over the years, and I think the next 35 years are going to be just as great. So it's exciting to talk about it.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of things planned for this year. As you know, we were starting to talk about the class project, the Common Class Project, and we've got ideas and thoughts for our alumni to become more engaged, just like with this podcast. So we've got a lot in store, and I'm really excited about the future of Leadership Medina County as well.
Yeah.
And your work, like I said, is it's a perfect example of what leadership is meant. You bring together people and energize them on a monthly basis, if not daily basis, but at least monthly basis with the Lead Institute. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on our inaugural podcast episode. Be sure to subscribe to WCTV to stay tuned for more. I want to thank WCTV for this amazing space and the ability to have a podcast like this Their help and getting me comfortable with this whole thing has been great. So thanks to WCTV. And if you're curious about Leadership Medina County, please visit our website or check us out on Facebook or LinkedIn. We've got lots of social media updates coming on a daily basis. So until next time, which I hope there'll be a next time, we'll see what leader joins me next. Leadership isn't a title. I love that about your Leadership Edge and the Kansas Leadership Curriculum. It is truly an activity that anybody can take part in. So, and make a difference in our community. Thanks.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.